Fusion is an information system. You use nodes to hold the information, and then you connect those nodes to other nodes to transfer that information between them. Once that information has been moved from one node to another node, that node can influence the information that this node gave it. So for example, if we're in Fusion here, and I drag a background node into my inspector, and let's make it something a little bit darker. Here we go. So I have this blue background in my viewer here, and all the information that it holds is, hey, here's a blue background. It's 1920 by 1080. This is the information that this node holds. And I decide, okay, I want that information, or I want my background to be moved to the right. Well, I don't have the ability to manipulate that information in this node, so what am I going to do? I'm going to get a node that can take the blue information and move it. In this case, a transform node. I'm going to take my background, my blue background, and I'm going to plug it into the transform node. Now, if I go to my inspector here, you can currently see we have our background controls. If I click on the transform node, now I have controls that are going to let me, change the size, change the position, change the angle. That's what the transform node does. Allows you to move stuff around. So if I want my background to be moved to the right, I'm going to go to center, and I'm going to grab the x-axis, which moves left to right, y-axis moves up and down, and I'm just going to drag this across here. And you might be going, yeah, that didn't do anything. Well, that's because I need to actually tell Fusion, display this point of my information system. Right now, you can see this white dot is showing display this background information, display this position on the assembly line in the viewer. So if I go to transform, I can see I'm not displaying the changes in the first viewer. So if I click on that, or if I just hit 1 on my keyboard to toggle this, now you can see I'm actually showing the change that I made. And now if I am to grab my center and I just move this back and forth, you can see I'm making that change now, and you can see it. So that's all Resolve is. It's an information system. You have information here. You say, okay, I need to manipulate or influence this information somehow. So you find the node that can make those changes, and you just connect them, right? Then in your inspector, you can make whatever changes you want, and away you go. Something that will be a little bit more advanced if you're just learning Fusion, or if this is a new concept to you, but you'll still be able to understand, is keyframing. Now, if you're like me, hi, by the way, I'm Isaiah. I've been using Davinci Resolve for over 5 years now. Then Fusion was a complicated concept for you. Watching, different creators, Patrick Sterling, Casey Ferris, and a lot of the other big players who teach Davinci Resolve and especially Fusion content, it still took me a while to fully grasp my head around the simple and easy to understand concept that Fusion is just information, and you just send that information between the nodes, and one node can change the color of something, the other node can move it up and down. And the more comfortable that you get with a node system, some of you might be coming from After Effects, which uses layers, the easier and more fun that you'll have with this. So let's say, for example, I want my background to move left to right across the screen over the course of the beginning to the end of my composition. We use something called keyframing. Keyframing is telling your information to hold this value at one time and to hold this value at another time. And the way that information is going to change is dynamic over time, so that as 130 approaches 230, you're slowly going to make that move over. So let's take a look at what that means. If I decide to move my background to -0.5, and then I want it to be all the way over here by the time I reach the end of my composition, what I'm going to do is put this back. There we go. And I'm going to hit this diamond right here beside center, because this is the property that I'm changing the value of. So I'm going to click this diamond, and orange means you have an active keyframe. So I'm going to click that, and now I've set this value at 0. So I've said for my center, hold a value of -0.5 and +0.5 at frame 0. Then if I take my playhead and I go to the end of my composition, I can tell my transform node to hold a different value, right, at this point. So I can go 1.5, and so now at 299 we hold 1.5. At 0 we're holding -0.5, and if I hit play, you'll notice, or you can clearly see, that as we get closer to that other keyframe, the value is changing dynamically over time. So you have an information system where the information is held by nodes, and it can be influenced by other nodes. And not only that, but those nodes have the ability to have their values change over time. If you're with me so far and you can understand, or you want to learn more, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, let me know what you think, and let's keep going. There's something else that's important to know about the way Fusion works, is that not only is a little bit more about how that information system works. Obviously, we know that information is transferred between nodes. Something else that is important for you to understand is that all of your nodes that are downstream are going to affect or influence the information that is upstream. And I'll give you an example right now of exactly what that means. So let me get rid of this keyframe here, and I'll just move this up and to the right ever so slightly. So I've dragged a second transform node into my node graph here, and I'm going to connect the first transform node into the second one. And I'm going to drag that into my viewer, so now we can see our dot. This says, hey, we are going to display on the viewer all the changes up to this node. We can tell with this transform, we've moved our background up and to the right. With this transform, we haven't done anything. So this transform is taking the information from this one, and it's starting off with a fresh slate. So this transform says my value is this. This transform node is fresh. It doesn't have any changes. So it's starting off with a 0.5 and a 0.5. Now, even though my background starts off like this, and the transform node that I have here has moved that background to be up and to the right, this transform node is now going to take the information from both of these nodes, and it's now going to apply its own changes. So if I grab my information in the inspector and I start moving things around, now I'm pulling that background back from the changes that this one made, because this transform node is saying, you moved the background over with your information. It says, I'll take that information into account, and I'm now going to affect it based on what you've given me. Or let's try this. If I make that animation that I showed you before, having this transform move from left to right, and then now I decide, hey, I also want it to move up and down. Right, we can see this transform that we're currently displaying is moving our background from left to right. This transform, if I drag it into the viewer, is taking both of these pieces of information, and because I haven't applied any changes onto it, it's just displaying basically the same thing. But let's make a change here at frame 100, and let's decide we want this to now go up. So I'm gonna type in 1. And now, if we look at our second transform node here, it's taken the background information and it's saying move left to right. This transform node, if I put this into the viewer, it's going to say, okay, I see it's a blue background. I see it's already moving left to right. I'm now going to take it and I'm going to move it up as well. So once we get to frame 100, that keyframe takes place, or that keyframe becomes active, and it starts moving that already moving left to right background up as well. So everything that is downstream, or your most downstream node, is going to affect all of the information before it, because you're feeding all of that information into that node. If you're enjoying what you're learning so far and you want to learn more, you want to know how to edit faster, you want to see the behind the scenes process of how a lot of higher quality presets are made for things like this, then click the link in the description to join the Discord. That's where I'm building a community of like-minded people who want to learn Resolve, who want to edit faster and make higher quality content. That's where you'll have access to my private group of people where we discuss presets that are made. I do behind the scenes. You'll get access to project files that you'll see in videos like this one and this one. That's also where you'll find all the news on the latest presets, both paid and free, that I'll be giving away, releasing discount codes for. Basically, all the value that you'll find here is even more powerful in the server. So if you don't want it to take you a year and a half to grasp the basic concepts of Fusion, like it did for me, then join the server, learn from my mistakes, and realize that no one does this alone. We all learn from each other. So let's cover one last crucial piece of information. You've learned so far that in Fusion, information is held within nodes. That information is passed to other nodes, influenced, and then passed all the way down the line until it reaches your media out node. Your media out node is what allows all of this information to actually be visible in your edit page. So that's important. Always connect your media out node. But what I want to focus on here is node order. Now, it may not seem like it right now because of how basic this composition is, but node order matters. For example, I'm going to do something slightly more advanced here. Let's say I have two different backgrounds here, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to pull this down just a little bit. Let's say I have two different backgrounds here, right? One is blue, one is red. And I decide I want to apply film grain on one of these. Where am I going to put this node? So a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to say, oh, well, for film grain, like you have an empty spot here. Why not just, connect that, connect your film grain, put it to your media out, boom. And now we can see we've applied film grain texture onto both our red and our blue background. And this is the reason why node order matters so much, because what if I don't want my film grain to be on the blue? What if I only want it on the red? All right, then what I need to do is I need to take my film grain and I need to place it over here instead. And now you can see our film grain is only applied to the red background. If I want the film grain only on the blue, same thing. Node order matters because the way that you're organizing the information makes a huge difference. And I'll break down exactly what happened right here. So right here, I took a blue background and I said, okay, apply film grain onto that blue background. And then I just took my red background, which is here, and I put it on top of the blue background. And that's the composition. If I take my film grain and I have my red background and I say, okay, apply the film grain or plug the background into the film grain, which applies the film grain to the red background. And then I say, okay, now let's take our blue background and let's put these together. You can see it's only on the red. If I instead merge these two pieces of information together, where now my viewer is half red, half blue, and I go, okay, now let's apply the film grain here, I'm plugging both the red and the blue information into the film grain. And that's why it's applying it to both of them compared to either just one or to the other. Now, you might be able to get away with not necessarily having your nodes organized in the beginning or when you're doing small compositions like this one. But when you get into the larger compositions, for example, like the Discord button template I showed you, your node order is going to begin to matter a whole lot more. So that is all for today. Welcome to Fusion. By now you should have a basic understanding of what Fusion is and how it works. Just to summarize, Fusion is an information system. Information is held inside of nodes. When you want to influence that information, you can pass that information from one node to another. Node order matters because the way that you arrange your information will control how it's influenced. And last but not least, if you want to accelerate your learning process and understand how to properly think so that you can use Fusion to its fullest potential, then of course, join the Discord. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. My name's Isaiah, and I'll see you in the next video.